Hey, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Energy. In our last episode, we talked about the two-dimensional square formations, and today we'll talk about the three-dimensional formations in the five Platonic solids. What makes the Platonic solids so special is that they can fit perfectly with all corners touching in a circle and a square or a sphere and a cube. And this was discovered by Plato, hence the name Platonic solids. But before we get into today's episode, I just want to say thank y'all so much for all the comments and all the likes and the shares that I have been getting on my YouTube videos. Y'all are the fucking best. When I was in this process of wanting to create this content, which I honestly feel like I was guided to create this content because some of this information is coming up. Some of this information is actually coming up in other places in my spiritual community, and I just know a great deal about it because I am now teaching it to other people. And it's like every single thing that I learn within that week, I am aligned with some conversation that's happening around it, which I think is fucking dope. But I'm so happy to be sharing this with y'all because like I said, there's so much that we just don't understand and so much that we don't know. And I think that the consciousness is really shifting back to what we knew in the last golden age, which was ancient Egypt. Okay. So I love that I get to be a vessel for this. I love that, that y'all are liking the content, that y'all are leaving me comments, that, some of y'all have y'all notebooks out. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Cause y'all study like me. But yeah, I'm happy that I get to do this. So I love y'all deep and thank y'all so much for all of the comments. Like y'all the fucking best. Okay. So let's hop into these three-dimensional shapes. So three-dimensional shapes have length, width, height, and depth. Okay. Two-dimensional shapes are going to be flat, but three-dimensional shapes can be viewed from multiple angles. So a two-dimensional shape, just think of like a square, but a three-dimensional shape, think of a cube. Okay, because those are very different. It's like what it would actually look like as an object or solid object in this material world. Okay, so first let's talk about the formations from the from the circle, and then we'll talk about the formations from the square. Okay, so the first shape is going to be a sphere, and a sphere is just going to be a ball, an orb, a globe, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Like the circle, the sphere represents wholeness, perfection, and completeness. This shape represents perfection because the distance from any point on the surface is the same distance to the center. Okay, the shape is found all through nature in fruits, in veggies, in rocks, hail, seeds, stars, planets, and also the firmament, which is a half dome like shape. We see domes a lot when it comes to religious buildings. Okay, so spheres are usually used for energetic protection as well. Y'all, the first visualization I ever learned was to imagine myself in a sphere of gold or white light before leaving the house. And this was supposed to provide energetic protection for me. Okay, and it's been said that silver or gold circles repel toxic energy and outside influence that intends to harm you. So just a little spiritual protection tidbit to put in there. Okay. The next shape is going to be a cone. Now, this shape usually has a circular bottom that comes to a point. This is the shape usually made for traffic cones, ice cream cones, birthday hats, but it's also seen in nature with volcanoes and pine cones as well. As we know from the Book of Wisdom, pine cones are usually associated with the pineal gland, which is associated with enlightenment. Okay. We also have pine cones. We also have cones in our eyes that help to refract light. Also, the shape can be seen when shining a flashlight. Okay. The further you get away with the flash, the wider it becomes. Okay. Next shape is going to be the egg of life, which is 8 spheres with only 7 visible. And it comes from the flower of life when you take out all the lines that intersect. Eggs, as we know, represent new beginnings, birth, fertility, and the beginning stages of growth. And then the number 8 is associated with the infinity sign because of its shape. So this also represents new life, renewal, and continuous change. This is seen in a woman's body when she is pregnant. The cell starts as one and then it multiplies into multiple cells until a baby is formed. Next, we have the torus, which comes from the 2-dimensional circle when you rotate up and across a single point. The torus field actually looks like a donut because there is a tube created in the center, which eventually comes back to the starting point. So the torus field happens naturally in nature as we are surrounded by one right now as we speak. And the earth is also surrounded by one. Every atom in our body is surrounded by a torus field, okay? It is often called in science, they call it the biofield or the electromagnetic field, but it's linked directly to your aura. Now, for this reason, the torus represents life in the natural flow of energy. It is used in religious practices, usually as a halo over the head of an angel or a saint, which is meant to represent eternal life. So tires also represent this torus field. And then they also have something called the torus knot, which is multiple of these donuts interlinked within each other. Okay, kind of like the Olympic sign, but if they were a 3D model of them, if they had depth to them. Next, we have the Mobius strip, and this shape was discovered by a mathematician by the name of August Mobius in 1858. It's very similar to the torus knot, and it reminds me of when you're decorating for a party and you twist together those streamers and you just twist it a little bit and then link the circle to make a full circle, and then you do the same thing but then link it within another circle. That's what the Mobius strip basically is, okay? He literally took a piece of paper, twisted it a little bit, and connected both ends. This shape represents life cycles in eternity. It has been linked with the saying, as within, so without, because whatever happens on the inside eventually manifests on the outside, okay? This three-dimensional shape only has one side and one edge. So that's it for the three-dimensional circle formations, okay? So let's talk about the three-dimensional square formations, and these are what we call the Platonic solids, okay? Now, the three-dimensional shapes that come from square are called, again, the Platonic solids. They are called the Platonic solids because they were rediscovered by Plato, who first wrote about them in his dialogue Timaeus in 360 BC. These shapes are called polyhedrons because they are three-dimensional. Polyhedrons are made up of polygons of the same size and shape. Poly in Greek, again, translates to many, and hedron translates to faces. So this literally translates to many faces. These shapes have straight edges, flat faces, and corners. These shapes are special because they perfectly fit into a sphere or a cube. Also, each are found in the flower of life and Metatron's cube. There are also compound duals of these polyhedrons, meaning that if the corners are extended out from the center, another polyhedron appears. So these are very multifaceted three-dimensional shapes. Okay, so first we have the cube, which is also called the hexahedron. This shape has 6 square faces of the same length, 8 corners, and 12 edges. Now remember, the square represents earth and solid foundation, so the cube does as well. It represents stability and is usually associated with earth and the root chakra, okay? Now the root chakra has to do with feeling safe and secure along with your survival instincts, and this chakra is affected when you did not have a good foundation to build upon when you were a child, whether that be that you guys were not financially stable, you didn't have food in your house, you didn't have a safe space for your emotions, you didn't have a safe space to intellectualize or speak on your own behalf, okay? Shapes are used in religion a lot because, as you know, a cross is just a cube that is laid flat. Okay, there's a formation that comes from the cube, and it's called the Sierpinski sponge, which is like the Sierpinski triangle and square. This shape is made up of 400 small cubes, and this pattern can go on indefinitely. The dual shape for the cube is going to be the octahedron, which we will talk about shortly. The cube is associated with the element of earth. So the dual combines earth and air, which are the helpers of water and fire. Notice one is magnetic, earth, and the other is electric, air. Everything exists because of electricity and magnetism, which is dielectric energy. Okay, so the opposite energy or the absence of electricity is magnetism. Okay, so this is going to make sense later. Just keep a tab on what I'm saying, because at the end of describing these Platonic solids, I am going to explain to you why this is important, okay? So next we have the icosahedron, which has 20 faces made from equilateral triangles, 12 corners, and 30 edges. This shape is often associated with water. Since this is linked with water, it is also linked with your emotions and your ability to be mentally flexible. Okay, so your ability to let things go and kind of go with the flow. The chakra associated with water is the sacral chakra, which is the orange one that is right below your belly button. The sacral chakra has to do with your ability to build relationships, which is often blocked by strong emotions. Okay, once somebody has burned you, you tend to close yourself off from developing new relationships. Why? That comes from emotions that you're holding on to. Okay, because your relationships are emotional connections. This also affects your ability to be creative. Okay, creativity is often blocked by repressed emotions, specifically and usually fear. Okay, your fear of other people perceiving you in a certain light. Okay, what happens when people get stage fright? What happens when people get stuck in their work? They're usually scared that somebody is not going to like it or people are not going to accept it. Okay, so this fear of judgment. This chakra also rules sexual relationships and your vitality. Okay, so your emotions are meant to flow in and out like water, but when you're not able to move on from them and we hold on to them, it affects our state of being and we become stagnant or unmoving. But the opposite can happen as well, where you become overly emotional, which can lead to depletion. Okay, so again, this shape has to do with the sacral chakra and is associated with water. Now, we often see this shape in board games. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the board games with the triangle shaped type dice that has multiple faces. This is usually the icosahedron. Okay, so the dual to this shape is the dodecahedron. So here we have water combining with spirit or aether, which helps to connect water and fire together. Spirit and matter, light and darkness, hot and cold. Okay, we will talk about the dodecahedron last. Okay, next we have the octahedron, which we talked about in comparison with the cube. Okay, this consists of 8 triangular faces, 6 corners, and 12 edges. This literally looks like 2 triangles connected at the bottom or an arrow pointing up and an arrow pointing down. Okay, if y'all have ever played the game Sims, this is the shape that is above their head. Okay, this shape is associated with the element of air in the heart chakra, which makes sense because the pyramid pointing up would be masculine energy, the pyramid pointing down would be feminine energy, and the heart chakra is in the center of the chakra system. There are 3 below and 3 above. Okay, the heart chakra is literally the portal to higher or lower densities of consciousness. A lot of people never make it to their heart space because of their trauma. All right, but this chakra is associated with love, compassion for other people, and forgiveness. It's often blocked though by grief. So if you are suffering from a broken heart, you are actively blocking your access to higher learning and a deeper connection with yourself. All right. This is your sign to start working from the bottom up, y'all. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, again, we need to be able to drop into our heart space. And right now is the perfect time for us to do that because Earth is actually moving into this 4th density of consciousness, which is associated with this heart space. And that's why you see so many people fighting for justice for all of these countries like Palestine, Sudan, Congo, and so many more. We are becoming more forgiving and compassionate and loving towards each other because we're in this transitory period where it's time to decide where you stand. Okay, are you aligned with this old energy that is about money, power, sex, greed, and hatred? Or are you ready and willing to rise above and out of that energy into this place of love, compassion? Okay, which all starts with loving yourself first. Because when you can love yourself first, then you can graduate to loving others and having compassion and forgiveness for other people. Okay. But in order for you to drop into this heart space, right, you have to heal those bottom 3 chakras. And the root chakra, again, is associated with earth. The root chakra is about you feeling safe and secure. So you have to realize that you're not a kid anymore, and all those things that were affecting you then, right now you have choices that can make your life feel safer. Okay, if your bills are paid, make sure that you're showing gratitude and stuff towards that. If the partner that you're with is making you feel safe, make sure you're showing gratitude with that. And if they're not, it's time to let them go, right? Because you need to be able to feel safe in whatever environment you're in. When it comes to your sacral chakra, you need to learn how to go with the flow. Okay, you need to learn that everybody is on an individual journey, and in order to unconditionally love anybody, you have to allow them to make the choices that suit them because they have free will. It is not your job to try to control them, to fix them. If what they're doing no longer aligns with you, it is time for you to move on because you are growing and they are not growing anymore. That means that whatever purpose they served in your life, that purpose is over. Okay. That's with people, places, and things. Whenever it's time for you to let go, you need to be able to let go and have this sense of detachment so that you can have flow in your life that will help you emotionally flow as well. Okay. And then the last one is your solar plexus, which is about managing your thoughts and regulating your emotions. You need to be treating your thoughts as if they do not belong to you. And when you treat your thoughts as if they do not belong to you, then you get to accept or reject the thoughts that are coming in. And when you pay attention and you go from fixing to observing what is actually coming through, then you get a say so of what you accept and what you don't accept. But when you're not paying attention to it, everything gets stuck into your subconscious mind because your subconscious mind is passive. So whatever you thoughts you're having, if you don't say, no, I reject this ideology, it gets stored in your subconscious mind and reconfirms some of this trauma that you probably have not dealt with. Okay. Regulating your emotions means really realizing that emotions are fleeting. Emotions are not states of being. Emotions are meant to add depth to your experience, meaning that they're supposed to tell you how you feel about whatever information you are receiving through your five senses. Does it make you feel good or does it make you feel bad? If it makes you feel good, go towards it. If it makes you feel bad, move away from it and set some boundaries in place so that you don't have to experience that anymore. It really is that simple. And I know I'm making it sound simple, but I'm saying, like, simply put, this is what it is. That is how life works. That is how you are designed to work. However, I understand that it's difficult because we live in a society that is making it very difficult because they want us to be stuck in these bottom three chakras so that we never reach our heart space. Because when you reach your heart space and you are able to love yourself and have compassion and understanding for other people, then you start actually caring about what's happening in the world. And you want to create harmony and balance in everything. And then that means that they no longer can rule with fear. Okay. Now, the shape that duals the octahedron, again, is the cube, which we talked about earlier. Next is the tetrahedron. And this consists of a pyramid with a triangular base with 4 faces, 4 corners, and 6 edges. This shape represents the element of fire and is associated with the solar plexus, which is the yellow chakra, which is right above your belly button. Now, this chakra is associated with power, actions, will, and determination. This is where your ideas are transmuted into action and become something tangible. Okay. So this chakra is usually blocked by shame or our inability to manage our thoughts and regulate our emotions, which is something we do not focus on in our society. That is why therapy is not even included in a standard healthcare plan. Like, that makes no sense to me. Okay. But again, this is to keep us stuck in those bottom 3 chakras, which are magnetic, meaning that they are more matter or material than spirit. And since we live in a place that is magnetic, meaning earth is magnetic, right? And if we're living in magnetic chakras, then that means that we are becoming more material, where we need to also have balance and be electric as well. We need a perfect balance between these two energies. So staying in your bottom chakra actually makes you stagnant in your energy. Okay. That's when you're vibrating your lowest or your slowest, and you're depending on your survival mode and instincts to survive. Those things are only meant to be tapped into when necessary, when you're in a fight or flight situation, not supposed to be running your entire life. Okay. But this lower energy, like I said, it's not sustainable. And it's why so many people are falling apart at the seams and living a life that is destitute, hateful, and having a victimized experience. Okay. This is one of the hardest chakras to get past because you have to evolve in order to get past this chakra. And if you're not able to evolve, right, and let go of your past and realize that these experiences were meant to teach you a specific lesson, and that's the only time that you're looking at the past, that's what you should be looking at, the lesson, not the problem, because the problem was meant to teach you a specific lesson. Okay. If you never realize that, you'll be ran by your thoughts, you'll be ran by your emotions, and you'll be ran by your 5 physical senses, which are your desires. Okay. Doing what you want to do instead of what you should do for yourself. Okay. Now, this energy is cleansed by fire. The previous energy, the octahedron, is cleansed by air. This energy is cleansed by fire. Okay. This shape duals itself, and it's the only shape that duals itself. Okay. So fire binding with fire. And I just want to point out too that triangles are the most stable shapes we have, and fire is the only element that we cannot scientifically explain. So I thought that was an important little tidbit. And then the last one we have is the dodecahedron. And this is 12 faces, 20 corners, and 30 edges. This shape represents the element aether or spirit and the universe that we live in. Okay, this is our connection with the divine and spirit or the creator. The dodecahedron is associated with the crown chakra specifically, but all of the top chakras are associated with spirit and can be cleansed with light. Okay, this shape symbolizes wisdom, knowledge, and helps us to realize our connection to everything in the universe, meaning that we are not actually separate. The separation is an illusion. We are all the same consciousness exploring different aspects of our consciousness. Okay. This is also the only Platonic solid that does not fit into Metatron's cube. And the dual for this is the icosahedron. Icosahedron. Chill. Anyway, why is this important? The reason why this is important is because we're made up of 5 elements. Those 5 elements are fire and air, which are masculine, electric, and hot. Air aids fire. Water and earth, which is feminine, magnetic, and cold. Earth aids water. And the 5th element is aether or spirit. Now, aether is the connective tissue between everything, connects everything together. That aether is where we get the word either this or either that. It is a connecting word. That is how you can remember that, okay? Sacred geometry tells us how light organizes itself in nature. We are slowed down light, made up of 5 elements: fire, air, water, earth, and spirit. And the shapes of those elements, or the way that they form themselves in nature, are these shapes that we just discussed. Okay. Most people who go on a little trippy trip, either DMT or the shroomy shrooms, say that they start to see geometric shapes before they have a vision or a vivid dream or a vivid illusion. Okay. What they're seeing is the very fabric, not only of our being, but also of our universe. Geometry existed before everything that we see in this physical reality existed, because geometry is the way that light is organizing itself into a pattern. Okay, these shapes are associated with your chakras. The cube is associated with your root. The icosahedron is associated with your sacral. The tetrahedron is associated with your solar plexus. The octahedron is associated with your heart. And the top 3 are associated with the dodecahedron. Okay, spirit is associated with that, especially your crown chakra. Now imagine if you go into meditation and let's say you visualize the sacral chakra as orange, but in the shape of a icosahedron with water purifying it. How powerful do you think that meditation would be? Yeah. This is the cheat code to you healing your chakra system, which needs to be balanced in order for your energy to flow and for you to channel energy from the top down. Okay, your chakras are directly linked to your densities of consciousness. Now, if you don't know what I mean by densities of consciousness, please go back to season 1 of my podcast. I talked about this in great detail of what each density is and what you experience in each density. Okay. The 7 densities of consciousness are the 7 evolutionary cycles of intelligence that everything manifests through and has to evolve through. This is where we get the 7 days of creation. It's talk about these 7 densities of consciousness. Okay. Now, the whole goal of this experience is to ascend out of this reality, and you have to do that through reaching enlightenment. The snake that got his wings, the snake that turned back into the dragon, okay, the angel who fell and lost his wings is getting his wings back. All of those stories are about you. The angel, or pure spirit, angle of light, angel, they're the same thing, that fell into manhood. Manhood is matter, okay? You were electric and now you're magnetic. You're both of the energies, though. You can climb back up the ladder and become more electric and balance those 2 energies out. But a lot of us don't understand our etheric body. A lot of us, which is where our chakra system is, a lot of us don't understand that we're multiple things and we're not just one. Okay, once your chakras, or they're also called energy portals, they're also called your channel. Once that is clear, you can receive divine guidance and see through the illusions of this reality. So why is this important? I ask again, because this is your path to ascension. It is your path to enlightenment. And these are the most balanced shapes to get you there. They are directly associated with your chakra system. They're directly associated with the 5 elements, which is what you are made up of. This is your advantage. This is your cheat code. All right, I might tell y'all a joke, but I never tell y'all. Anyways, next we have the semi-regular polyhedras. Now, there are many of these shapes, but I will only discuss the ones you need to know about, because as you keep like multiplying these shapes, they become less symmetrical and they can't really be found in nature. Okay. So the first group is called the Kepler Poinsett solids. And these shapes are formed when you take a 2 or 3-dimensional shape and extend the edges until they meet again, which creates a new shape. These were first rediscovered by Johannes Kepler, who we've talked about before. He was studying the Platonic solids in the 17th century and found that he could create 2 new versions of the dodecahedron by extending the edges. Then a guy named Louis Ponsat in the 19th century studied Kepler's work and rediscovered another dodecahedron in an icosahedron version. But only 3 Platonic solids can do this as far as we know. And those 3 are going to be the icosahedron, which can be stellated into 59 different shapes. The largest shape has about 60 visible points. Remember that this is associated with water, so this is water. And then we have the octahedron. This one can be stellated 1 time, which is the star tetrahedron, or what we call the Merkaba. This shape represents mind, body, soul, or light, spirit, and body coming together. It consists of 2 tetrahedrons intersecting, one pointing down and the other upwards. This shape again is associated with air. And then we have the dodecahedron, which can be stellated into 3 different versions. They call it the small dodecahedron, the great dodecahedron, and the great stellated dodecahedron. And this shape is associated with spirit. Next, we have the Archimedean solids, which we talked about in a previous episode. Okay. These are the 13 solids created by Archimedes and rediscovered by Kepler in 1620, which is what made them known to the world. They are a mixture of 1 or more Platonic solids, and there is no spiritual significance to these shapes, but they do follow the same rules as the Platonic solids, meaning that the faces and shapes are identical on each side, and all of them can fit inside of a sphere. They also can fit inside of the Platonic solids that they come from. They also can fit inside the Platonic solids that they come from, along with the dual shape associated with that Platonic solid. Okay. These are called the truncated polyhedrons, and I'm just going to give you a quick rundown. So first we have the cuboctahedron, which is 6 squares, 8 triangles, 12 corners, and 24 edges. Then we have the great rhombicosidodecahedron. Child, why do y'all play so fucking much? Anyways, that's 12 decagons, 20 hexagons, and 30 squares, 120 corners, and 180 edges. Then they have the great rhombicubooctahedron, which is 6 octagons, 8 hexagons, 12 squares, 48 corners, 72 edges. The icosododecahedron, which is 12 pentagons, 20 triangles, 30 corners, 60 edges. They have the small rhomboicosodecahedron, which is 12 pentagons, 20 triangles, 30 squares, 60 corners, 120 edges. The small rhombocubooctahedron, which is 8 triangles, 18 squares, 24 corners, 48 edges. The snub cube, which is 6 squares, 32 triangles, 24 corners, 60 edges. The snub dodecahedron, 12 pentagons, 80 triangles, 60 corners, 150 edges. The truncated cube, which is 6 octagons, 8 triangles, 24 corners, 150 edges. The truncated dodecahedron, which is 12 decagons, 20 triangles, 60 corners, 90 edges. The truncated icosahedron, which is 12 pentagons, 20 hexagons, 60 corners, 90 edges. The truncated octahedron, which is 6 squares, 8 hexagons, 24 corners, 36 edges. And finally, the truncated tetrahedron, which is 4 triangles, 4 hexagons, 12 corners, and 18 edges. Yeah, whoever came up with them names, don't do that no more. That is embarrassing. Y'all know words be eating me up. I hate that. Anyways. So the last one is the vector equilibrium, and this is actually known as the cuboctahedron as well. which is a three-dimensional shape with vectors of equal length. A vector is a number with magnitude and direction, and they're often represented by X, Y, and Z when they're plotted on a chart, okay? This means that all the edges are the same length and the center point of each corner is the same length. This shape was rediscovered in 1917 by Buckminster Fuller. He described the shape as zero starting point for happenings or non-happenings, okay? This shape can be achieved just like Metatron's cube, but with 13 spheres and drawing the lines from the center of each until a shape emerges. Okay, so it literally, Metatron's cube is taking that flat, what is it called, seed of life, which has the 13 circles, and basically drawing a line between the center of each circle. This is done the same exact way, but it's done with spheres. Okay, boom. That concludes our episode on three-dimensional formations and the 5 Platonic solids. Why are the 5 Platonic solids important? Because they're associated with your chakras. They're associated with the elements that exist within your body. And once you can balance those elements, whether through your chakra system or through your birth chart, yeah, that too, you can be on your path to ascension. You'll be in this constant state of bliss, and you'll get to live the experience and manifest the things that you want to manifest in your life without any problems. Okay. When you're standing in your light, nothing dark can touch you. Period. Point blank. I hope you enjoyed this content. In the next episode, we will talk about the geometric spiral, numbers, letters, and symbols. As always, please like, comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. I love y'all deep, and until next time.